My name is Ralph White, and I'm an alcoholic. And Michael, thank you for the kind words. You could have left the hearty appetite out. They can see that for themselves. I'm in agreement with Charlie. For those looking at the screen, it does add about 60 pounds, Charlie. Believe it or not, I came in with a size 28 waist. Got pictures to show, prove it. Size 28 waist. And that was not by choice or design, the way I was living. And I want to thank Ben. I was able to come to the very first one of these. And I remember, the guys were wondering, are we going to get our number? And then went way past that number. And now look at this one. Oh, my God. I didn't realize that this part of the country was such a hotbed. And I didn't realize that it had the allure. I didn't know that many people wanted to come. When Charlie said yesterday, that Katie let me come to this one. We wanted to come to this one. That's big. That's big. You guys are doing it, and you're doing it real big, and you're doing it real well. And I appreciate the Southern hospitality. For those who don't know, this format started some years back. When I listened to Ben talk about being at the first one, the person who first had the idea for this format, he's going to get pissed off at me right now because he's certainly not a guy that wants that. He'll be up here later on, and he's sitting right over there, Bob D. And I remember when he first had that idea, and I was privileged enough to be in on the discussion, and I was at that very first one, the granddaddy of all this format, the State Line Convention, and what that format has spawned, really shameless plug. I have one of these conferences in Los Angeles, May 19th to 21st. I didn't bring any flyers. And Ben, I want to be like you guys, and I started before you, but I'd like to invite you to come to LA. And so, okay, all that is out of the way. That's out the way. Let's get to what we came here for, because we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. You guys have tasked me with talking about a number of things in a very short time, and that's that inventory process that led into. Thank you, Kent. And all the speakers here, I was in the bed last night, and I kind of got a little overwhelmed. It's going to come out in this talk today, too. I got a little overwhelmed because what you guys get this weekend, you are blessed to get some of the best communicators of our program in Alcoholics Anonymous. But trust me, just because they're the best communicators does not mean that their walk is any different than anybody in this room. We have the ability to talk about this thing, but it's a living program, and it's within the grasp and it's within the reach of everybody that's here. And I say that because the people that are here this weekend are not just communicators. I'm blessed enough to have 3 brothers in the program. So there are 4 white boys in the program. With an adopted sister right there, Katie P. And I got another brother. I don't need other brothers because there's 6 of us. But I got my boy Kent. And Kent not only is a great communicator, been in his house, know how he lives. I'm sitting over here, and so that's Kent. And Larry T came up here, know how he lives this thing. If you go to his home group, the Bellflower Big Book group, you'll see Larry, and Larry's almost 40 years, and you'll see him in the greeting line. That is what his commitment is at his home group, and so then, and Bob D, the poet laureate of Alcoholics Anonymous, I call him, but he's in the detoxes every week. He's with new guys. He's getting grimy, Charlie and Katie Park, I've been to their house. I know what they do. They do more than just talk about this. Yeah, they got names in AA, but they're a couple that give me something to aspire to. Sometimes people say, and Mari and I have a special relationship. We talked about when we first met last night. I hope I get to talk about my step, you guys, because I'm so busy talking. I'm caught up with the speakers and who I get to be with this week, Sometimes people say, is AA in good hands? And, we lost Sandy and we lost Tom and, we lost Clancy and we lost some of our giants. But then when I see Amy, we are in very, very, very good hands, you guys. When you talk about people coming up behind, you guys are going to get to hear Amy and, oh my God, powerful, powerful message carrier. And so I'm honored to be in the presence of these people. And I'm glad that I got an opportunity. And thank you, Robin, for filling in and bringing it this morning. I like to see every speaker, And I was here to hear Astrid last night, and so I am honored to be in the presence of, and so some years ago, I came into the program October 11, 1986, and I was on my last legs. I was 33 years old, and I was toe up. And I'm a guy that was a high-achieving guy and an accomplishing guy and a goal-setting, goal-seeking, reaching guy. I'm a guy that made stuff happen. And so I thought, but I'm a guy that suffers from that thing. And if you suffer from the thing that I suffer from, all that other stuff I said, it's an equal opportunity ass kicker. And it takes 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 and it takes. And it did that for me. And I crawled in, size 28 waist. And I started doing this thing, with the way I attack everything. And when you read Bill's story, there are some words and there are some phrases that come up. And if you pay attention to our new friends that raise their hands here, pay attention. It's not just go. Bill, in his story, he talked about me and my wife after he came out of Towns Hospital, abandoning ourselves with enthusiasm. Put that word in your vocabulary, new friends. With enthusiasm. I'm not here just grudgingly, I got this gorilla. I guess I got to get it off the block. No, we abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm. And I surrounded myself with those kind of people, and so I got and I enthusiastically dove into this thing. And so I started, first step, Kent already went over it and went through it. I had already a thorough enough one that when I came in here, I'm done. Goose cooked. Done deal. And that second step was kind of difficult for me because like the speaker this morning, I come from a Southern Baptist background and, but I'm a kid of the 60s and religion is an opiate of the people. I'd rather smoke mine. Thank you very much. Not trying to be down, so the religion, God, it's storytelling, it's myths, it's fables. It's what my mama needed. It's what my grandparents certainly needed. They were older. They needed somebody to tell them how to live their life. There were some black folks from the South and they came in here and somebody, I'm from the 60s. And that is, no, miss me with that. Robin said when she turned 18, she told her mom, I'm not going to church. When I turned 16, I told moms, you'll never see Ralph White darkening the doors of anybody else's church. Said it, did it, meant it. And I went about my way, scoffing, skeptic. Hit you guys, with, in that condition, Okay, Ralph, what's your choice going to be? Alcoholic death? Spiritual life. They looked a lot alike to me, so it was a dilemma, but again, I had a real thorough one, you guys. And so I did what it is that we do when we go to our meetings. I kept getting the witness testimony. I kept getting the witness testimony. I kept getting the witness testimony. I'm getting pulled onto a box. I hope I don't go there, but I feel like I'm going to end up on a box for a minute. I hope I don't. But so I end up throwing myself into that third step. And Charlie did a wonderful job when he talked about our third step, and one of the reasons why sometimes we say, reading the book, and this is a big book weekend, you guys, make no mistake about it, but I'm going to go some places with that. One of the reasons why, I read that book, it's dynamic. It's not static. It's not one read through. It is alive to me, and I see things different because I'm different when I come to it, and people are, and I see different approaches, and so, and the one thing Bill never wanted our book to be, even though we're a big book weekend, you guys, he never wanted it to be dogma, and he never wanted it to be doctrine. What does that mean, Ralph? He never meant it to be read like you read in the Bible, or it's in here. No. The book is it's not the end point. It's the starting point, and a lot of people read it like it's a limiter, and just read the black text. No. If you would just read it like that, it would not look different to me every time. I was listening to Charlie when he talked about the third step, and I'm getting ready to go into my steps, you guys. I was listening to Charlie talking about the third step, and when Charlie was talking about the third step, he said there are some critical questions that came up. And one of the questions that came up is, being convinced that my life run on my will. Am I convinced that my life run on my will can be a success? If you're successfully running your life, stop. Right there. Don't stop running your life. Keep running your life, but stop in the steps. You ain't got to do the rest. You ain't got to do a fourth step. Why would you? If your life run on your will of success, as sponsors, quit hitting people over there. If you successfully running your life, sitting here and audit the course, listen to the rest of us that are wrecking our lives. Just listen, But if so, that's one of them. And then Charlie talked about something else that's in that same paragraph too. He said, being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what it defeated us. This is the dynamic part of reading the book. This is why it's good to read the book with somebody. This is why it's good to continue to read the book. This is why it's not just a straight read it black and white. Because Charlie said, to being convinced that self manifested in various ways. And he said the questions that came up are, am I convinced that I have this self, this manifests in various ways? But I look at it also, in addition to that, being convinced that self manifested in various ways was what it defeated us. Do I believe I'm defeated? Do I believe it's done? Do I believe the goose is cooked? Do I believe that you can stick a fork in me? Do I believe that my ideas don't work? Do I believe that I ain't got no more hustle, no more game, no more con, no more come up, no more good ideas? Do I believe that about me? Because that part right there, wait a minute, you wrote this book back in 1938, started writing the book in 37. What you mean defeated? How you know? Now I'm defeated, but I still get, I don't like the idea that you proposing that to me. Same as me, I'm with you too, Charlie. Little plans, I got big plans and ideas. Why are you minimizing my stuff? Why are you telling me I'm defeated? Well, dude, are you? Well, yeah, when you put it like that, so now let's talk about who wants to go on the fourth step journey. Who wants to go? Who wants to take the trip? Is my life run on my will being a success? My life run on my will when I first came, and it's good to hit inventory early. Because there are a couple of obstacles and barriers to doing a good inventory. One of the ones is this. There are some twins that are involved in doing inventory. And one of them, the barriers and the obstacles, you're going to run into these twins. One of them is fear. I can't look. I cannot look. Why would, I can't look at the carnage. I can't look at what I've done. I can't look at the molestation. I can't look at what happened to me. I'll start crying. I'll start hurting. I'll start refilling. I can't look. And here's the other twin, the companion to the fear. And it'll step in, especially if you wait a while to do inventory. And that one is pride. I can't look. Plus, I don't have to. I've been sober 3 years. Why I got to do inventory? I've been sober 5 years. Why I gotta look? Okay, I done been in 16 different relationships. I keep getting on the door, not with luggage, with hefty bags. I keep, that's my luggage, right? I keep doing that kind of, so why? So I can't look. Plus, I don't have to. That's one of the good reasons why it's good to go in the inventory, you guys, early. And the other reason, when it talks about after you come off your knees in the third step, what are the adjectives? It says, next we launched on a vigorous program action. When you think of launching, what do you think about? A rocket ship. You think about a rocket. And we don't see them that much these days, but people of a certain age, men and women that came up, remember the space race and the space, we used to see all the time, Cape Canaveral and you would see these launches all the time. And I can remember as a kid, the one feature of seeing a rocket launch is seeing that fire up under it. And that's the good way to approach inventory. You need some fire up under that behind. That's why it's good to do it. It's good to launch when that is still fresh, right? When you can still see the gorilla on the block. Oh, you ready to launch then. When you've been doing this about 5 years, the gorilla seemed like he way down the street, and but when he right there, so next we launch on a vigorous course of action. And so it's really a time. So I'm not going to go too deep into the rudiments of inventory because we really don't have, but I want to talk about the benefits. I want to talk about why. I want to talk about why it makes more sense than not to take a look at my life. I want to talk about what a self-examined life looks like. I want to talk about the real peace that we get to in Alcoholics Anonymous and what really takes place, because what takes place here, and here I'm going to throw a couple of things out, and I'm going to do a lot of opinion today. When we wrote the book, when Bill wrote the book, he said he was going to do a couple of things. He wanted to leave as little room for contention as possible. Didn't want it to be a controversial book. Now, a lot of times we get up here and we like it. I like to be, sometimes I want to be the muckraker and I want to be, so that's me. But Bill, when he wrote the book, he said, I want as little room for contention as possible. And I know in Alcoholics Anonymous, a lot of times, folks say, I'm not going to share opinion. I'm just going to share about the book. And I'll be sitting there thinking, that's your opinion. You're not sharing opinion. You're sharing opinion right now. You share an opinion right now. And here's the thing, you guys. You often, when you get a speaker, you blame the speaker, but the speaker ain't got nothing but what he armed with. He comes with what he got. Blame Ben. He knew what I was bringing when he called me. You need to blame the speaker getter, because they know what I can't get nothing else. What I got is I'm bringing what I got. And what I got is a firm, well-grounded belief in a power that has done something for me that I could not have thought of doing for myself, that has revolutionized my outlook on life, that has changed the way that I interact with my community, that has changed the way that I interact with my mom, who's 93 years old, that has given me the ability to be a daddy that my girls, and I got 2 grown daughters and they daddy's girls. I've tapped into something, and it has not been, and although we're here to talk about that book is the guide. Sandy used to say the book is the map, it's not the treasure. I'm here to share with you guys this weekend about a power, about access to power. My sponsor, who is Bob B. out of St. Paul, Minnesota, says, don't get hung up, Ralph. You can't eat the menu. We don't eat the menu, you guys. We get the menu, then we cook the meal. And then we put our own on the meal. And we put our own on the meal. And there's a meal and there's a banquet waiting. So that 4th step, why would I do it? The book talks about it and it analogizes it to a commercial business. It says it's a fact-finding and it's a fact-facing enterprise, this business of inventory. I once did some work for a commercial outfit, a retail outfit. I was in college. It was this company, RGIS, and they did. I was a student, and late at night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we'd go through, we had these guns, and you'd inventory what was in the store. And you'd see if milk was spoiled, you'd see if some items, if cereal boxes were open, you'd see if there was some damaged goods, you'd see if some stuff had gone beyond their expiration date. You do all that. And so the object of it was to see what's still selling and what still makes sense. Well, that's the same thing we do in our lives. And so we have 3 inventories that we concern ourselves with when we look at this various manifestations of self. I'm convinced that Charlie and we could have been singing from the same sheet music last night, Charlie. It couldn't have been a better lead in to 4 and 5 than what Charlie talked about last night. Because when we talk about this business of inventory, so now I got to go real fast, and I can't stay long. So we got 3 inventories. We look at fears. We've got resentments, fears, sex conduct inventory. Now, when Bill wrote the book, and I'm like I told you guys, I'm a person that reads the book, and I asked myself, Bill, when he wrote the book, said resentment is the number 1 offender, and I don't disrespect that, and I agree. But when you look at my life, fear is fear is the one that drives my train. Fear, I really look at that. But resentment is the number 1 offense. So we put them on paper, you guys, and we start looking at this business of resentment inventory, and we start looking at our sex conduct, and we look at our fears. And why would I do that, Ralph? Why do I want to? Because this 12-step program and this business, this design for living that you guys offer me, is going to do something for me. I got on my knees and I said, God, do something with your boy. Relieve me, and Charlie covered it. It didn't say relieve me of this desire to drink beverage alcohol. Relieve me of this overwhelming thirst that I have. It says relieve me bondage of self. Whole deal. Whole rest of the program. Too much me between me and the power. The real short version for how we get to this spiritual experience, because I suffer from an illness that only a spiritual experience can conquer, right? The short version of how to get to the spiritual experience: grow God, shrink Ralph, whole deal. Grow God, shrink Ralph, whole deal. The rest of these steps that we have, these after step 2, this 10-step series of ego-reducing exercises, that's all they're designed to do, because it's too much me between me and the power. It's too much me. You ain't got to go searching. You ain't got to go looking. You ain't got to go looking outside yourself. You ain't got to do any of that. And there's a recipe for how to look. Wow. It's a design for how to look. Because it's interesting. Our book talks about, when it says, if we work on the spiritual, Ralph, the mental and the physical will straighten out. That seems odd to me. I read it, but I'm not a bobblehead when I read the book. When I read the book, I'm like, that don't seem right to me. We work on the spiritual, and the mental and the physical straighten out. Doesn't it seem like the physical straighten out first? Seem like you get some behind back, some hips come back, hair, is okay, your skin, clears up, eyes get, and I would think to myself, wait a minute, why are you saying that? Then you start thinking clearer and thinking better, and you get too much change at the gas station, you go back and give it back to them. Here, sir. It seems like that kind. We're going to see if we're going to make it. I better stop doing any introductory and just start throwing bombs out here, right? I don't have time for no intro. You guys are just going to have to do it with no setup. So this business of the spiritual, here's the deal, you guys, when you think about it. If the spiritual don't happen first, how do I get from day 2 to day 3? I don't have a big book yet. I don't have a sponsor yet. Probably don't have a home group yet. Haven't been on any H&I panels. Haven't done any of the stuff. Haven't written an inventory. Haven't shared an inventory. How do I get from day 2 to day 3. What is that? What is it to stop the wind from blowing on day 1? What is it to stop this wave from crashing on my life and washing it away? What stopped the wave right here? Most of our members call that grace. We don't create the grace. We don't produce the grace. We can't control the grace. We don't predict the grace. We access it and we catch it. And it is my contention that the whole rest of what it is we do, is designed, access that grace. Because the level of grace that I get, that fundamental first grace, that desperation grace that I come in here on, I think it has an expiry. It has an expiration date. And at that point, I need to be doing some things. And again, we don't create the grace, So what is it, Ralph? Why is it then that a guy on the street is still on the street and you up in here? Grace ain't available to him? I think grace is as available to him as it is to anybody in this room right now. What's the difference? I was going to a meeting one day about 60 days sober. A guy said, Ralph, what's going on with you? I said, I'm just doing God's work. John said, what you think you can do for God, God can't do for himself. Why, he floored me, because I thought I gave the right answer. But I've been raised well in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I respect my elders. So I say, talk to me, John. What's happening? He said, Ralph, God gave you something he didn't even reserve for himself. I said, really? God gave me something he doesn't even have? I said, what's that? He gave you the choice over whether or not you're going to return his love. God has no choice. God is love. God don't do but one thing. He keeps sending grace. It's the receiver that's blocked. And I believe when desperation meets opportunity, a small window of grace opens up. And I jumped through the window October the 11th, 19, and it's been my job since that tape, I don't create the grace. I smudge the window. I wipe the window. And I start wiping the window when I get off my knees in the 3rd step. And I go in that 4th step. And if you hear, and you've been doing this thing for a while, and this business of inventory seems a little daunting, how free do you want to be? Get a lot of relief from putting it down. The difference between relief and freedom, and what the program Alcoholics Anonymous and the lifestyle is presented in our 12 steps, this Design for Living, what it offers to a guy like me is freedom. How free do you want to be? And so I proceeded, and I jumped in and I started doing those inventories and I started doing the resentment inventory, and I looked at some of that, and really quickly, just real rudimentary, it's a 4-column and I do it. I'm resentful at Lee, why. 1st column, who I'm resentful at. 2nd column, the cause of it, He's sabotaging my talk, because and it's really important when you do resentment inventory. Several things are important. Number one, be concise. Don't be doing no long editorial putting forth yours. No, hit it. And don't worry about editing my thought. That is the way a resentment comes to me. The resentment is not just, the mic was tripping. The resentment is, Lee is sabotaging my talk. That's how a resentment come in me, right? 3rd column. And we have 7 different areas of self that come directly from the big book Alcoholics Anonymous that I look at when I do my 3rd column. I look at my self-esteem, how I see myself. I look at my pride, and I have a different definition than Webster's definition. And I look at my pride. My pride is how I think other people see me. I look at my ambitions, the things that I want in order for me to be okay. I look at my security, the things I think I need to be okay. I look at my personal relationships, any relationship, where sex is not involved. I look at my sexual relationships. Any relationship where sex is involved, real or imagined or potential, and then I look at and then the 7th area of self I look at is my pocketbook, my money, my stuff, and I look at where that was affected. Me, I do a little sentence when I write those, but you ain't got to, but that's the way I do inventory. And then I do a 4th column. And my 4th column, I'm getting ready to get on a soapbox right now, because I kind of get a little we got some shame sharing that goes on in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know. And in 1987 is when I did my first inventory. And a gentleman who influenced the workshop I was in first, Joe H., best friends with your boy, Mark, you know, and so that's where I come from. And when I write my inventory in my fourth column, and it's going to be a bunch of people cringing in here because in 2023 it ain't the same to say, oh, I write my part in my fourth column. Now, it's going to be some people that say, if I look at my part, you know, I'm looking at 10% mine, 40%. I have the ability to say my part as a title to my column and then disregard the other person involved entirely, which is the instruction in the fourth column. I also have the ability to say, where have I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, or afraid? I also have the ability to say, I look at where are my faults, where am I wrong, where was I to blame? And then I start writing the fourth column in my inventory. I don't trip off that. Quit trying to shame sharing people. Now, when you look at that, Amy, when you say anybody here that says, for me, when I look at my fourth column, I got to be careful not to say, I'm cool. I'm cool. Just don't be bashing the people that do so. You know, I say I'm on my box now, you know, because now, you know, people sometimes, you guys, this is so inclusive. I've been that guy. Where did this come from? And whenever I hear myself say, where did this come from? I know I'm on dangerous ground. Because what I'm really saying is I'm in a morally superior place than that, or I'm in a spiritually superior place than that, or is something wrong with the way that you see it, or just because I don't know where it comes from, how does that invalidate it? Because I suffer from two things, you guys. One is this: if it ain't my experience, you lying about it being yours. And the companion to that one is my experience is the experience. And I remember being a guy on fire. And when you knew in recovery, and there's some people in here on fire, 3 to 5 years sober, 5 to 10 years sober. How many people we got in here that's 5 to 10? You know, and I know you on fire, and you come up here and you be saying that old timer don't know what the hell he talking about. Man, when I first got in the book, man, I'd be like, here's a dude now that's been sitting in the rooms for 30 years. I'm now checking his share, right? Because I'm the kind of guy, when I discover something, I'm like Christopher Columbus. Now is when it get discovered, you know. So now I done read. And old timers just be, no, he in the book finally. Because I be coming up in there just throwing it down. Where did this 90 meetings in 90 days come? Check this out. You know, check this out. Me and Les went to see Bruno Mars for New Year's Eve. And he was in Vegas, right? And we had our tickets, and we went to see Bruno, and Bruno is the show. And when we had our tickets, for any of you guys who go to concerts and who go see plays or who go see anything, you know, that's got a big audience, when it's dark in there, somebody has a flashlight, and you'll show your ticket to who? The usher. And the usher ushers you to your seat, and he seats you, and now you're seated for the act. But the usher was critical to seating you for the act. The people who are sharing, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, are the ushers. Those of you who are singing, quit bashing the ushers and sing your song when you get to sing. Because I guarantee you, when somebody says, go to 90 meetings in 90 days, A, they may not have no more than that in their arsenal. And I want to arm them with more than that in their arsenal. They may, and B, they may be in the choir the next time you see them. They just ushers for right now. And it's a thing that I guarantee you that if Ralph White goes to those 90 meetings in 90 days, he's got a much better chance, if he lives in Austin, Texas, of seeing Charlie and Katie somewhere in them 90 than if he go to 10 meetings in 90 days. And he just might hear. So I'm not saying, because Kent was talking about that, and what Kent says is if you are going to those 90 meetings, you need to be doing more than just going to those meetings. But sometimes, so if you're going, go. But sometimes, you guys, we at a revival right now. We had a tent revival. The people that go to revivals generally are already in the congregation. But at our meetings, you guys, guess what? We got a whole lot of visitors that ain't yet signed on the dotted line. At our meetings, we got a whole lot of people that's coming in like me. Guess what? A whole bunch of people catch alcoholism in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't forget, we need somebody singing to the applicants. Not everybody's in the congregation. So let me get off that box. Get off. So back to 4 and 5. I don't know why. I don't know who put me on that box, but I was up there for a minute. So I took full advantage of it, So back to 4 and 5. So when I do resentment inventory, you guys, so I did the thing with Lee, it affected my self-esteem, made me look bad, affected my pride. Y'all think that, what is this clown doing up there? Affected my ambition. I wanted to give a hell of a talk up here today. It affected my security. Oh my God, it affected my emotional security, it affected my personal relationships. Now I'm not going to want to go kick it with Ken because he, I know he going to tell me it was all right, but he lying. That's the good But that's the good news. People say to Ralph, do you get nervous? I don't get nervous because you guys lie, and so it's cool. All the speakers, we know that people lie. You could come up here and bomb. I could come up here and sing the Star Spangled Banner and mess up the words. And somebody gonna say, man, you told my story. Y'all lie. So it's really not that hard to get up here. So, it affects my personal relationships, because I'm not going to trust you anyway, whatever you tell me. It's not going to affect my sexual relationship, and it's not going to affect my pocketbook. Bam. That's how you do resentment inventory, you guys. And then you go to the 4th column, and disregarding Lee entirely. Where have I been I ain't thinking about nobody but me. I ain't really thinking about you guys, how it's affecting you. I'm going to think, how does this make me look? What are you going to think when you drive home talking about this guy whose talk was disjointed? How am I going to? That's what I'm thinking about, and so the dishonest, so I'm selfish, dishonest, but here's where you're going to always find Ralph. Fear. My overriding fear is what I think you think about me. It's a fear that runs underneath most of my other ones, and it drives them, and fear is what drives most of my resentments, you guys. I don't have standalone resentments. I'm not a raging guy, generally speaking. Many people don't have standalone resentments. Many people don't have standalone anger. Anger for many people, and at least in Ralph's case, is a mask. And it's a mask for fear. I'd rather be mad than scared. I feel like I can control anger. I don't feel like I can control fear. Fear paralyzes me. Fear makes me look bad. I'm ashamed of fear. But anger, it feels like I can direct it. It feels like I can keep you off me with anger, and so one of the things about doing resentment inventory, you guys, is seeing the truth of the matter, and so, and because the truth of the matter, I think the resentments work for me. That's one of the reasons why we have a whole separate inventory for resentments, because they're problematic for people. There are a lot of times we talk about this alcoholic thinking and this alcohol. People separated from a power have problems. We are people that take ours to the extreme. And secondly, our solution to the problem is deadly. We people who drink on top of our problems. But our problems are not unique to us. This business of alienation, it ain't unique to alcoholics. This spirit business of isolation ain't unique to alcoholics. This business of depression ain't unique to alcoholics, but what we do with it. So we have this business of resentment, and I think resentments work for me, and that's why they're extremely problematic, and that's why we have a whole inventory devoted to them? What about justified resentment, Ralph? How can you say that everything, what about a resentment that's justified? What about the fact that somebody came into my bed when I was 8 or 9 years old? I should still be mad at him. You can't tell me that there is something that I had to do with that. You can't tell me to look at my mistakes, my faults. Where was I to blame? You cannot tell me to look at, what are you talking about, dude? And so we have what people will call, and I've been blessed in life, you guys. I have, generally speaking, most of my resentments fall in one or two places. I stepped on the toes of my fellows and they retaliated, or I made decisions based on self that later put me in position to be. I have those kind of resentments, but there are real people in real life who have real stuff that really happened to them. Somebody in this room really had Uncle Charlie coming in your bed when you were a kid. Somebody in this room really was victimized by the rapist. Somebody in this room really, really, really did have somebody do something physically abusive to them, So what do you say to the 8-year-old girl who had Uncle Charlie at his bed? What do you say to the little boy who had the molester, Mr. Speaker, at the front of the room? How do you deal with that kind of resentment? And there are a couple of things I have to bring to resentment inventory, you guys. One of them is, and they're comparing, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Yeah, you're right, but how's that working for you? Yeah, you're right that shouldn't have happened to you. Yeah, you're right that no man had the right to come up in your bed and force himself on you. Yeah, you're right about that happening. How's that working for you? Holding on to the resentment. Wow. Second piece when I do resentment inventory, you guys. Being free of the resentment does not mean I excuse, condone, or exonerate the behavior that brought it about. Hear me. Being free of the resentment does not mean I excuse, condone, or exonerate the behavior. One of the reasons why it's so hard to get free of that resentment, it feels like I'm saying, I now condone what you did. I now agree with what you did. Somehow, until I put pen on paper, I think that somehow magically I'm protecting myself by holding on to the resentment. Pen to paper is powerful because you'll see the fallacy of that. I'm holding on to resentment at 44 or 54 years old for something that happened to me when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I think by holding on to resentment, I'm stopping it from happening to me again. Well, it'll never happen to me again. I'll never be 8 or 9 again. I'm 44. I'm 50 years old. Oh, shit. When you put it like that, it will never happen to me again. While my ego is still alive, and it's still alive when I'm writing the fourth and the fifth step, I let it work for me. Damn it, you came in my bed when I was 8, you're getting out of my bed when I'm 48. Get out the bed. I'm doing this resentment inventory. I'm writing. And I write Uncle Charlie. And I write the second column, molested me, abused me. And I write the third column really fast, my self-esteem. If I'd have been important, you wouldn't have done that to me. My pride. You didn't think very much of me. You thought I was disposable, a piece of me. Plus, other people can see it. My personal relationships. Everybody know I'm damaged goods. I have surface relationships. My ambition. I just wanted to be a happy-go-lucky little girl or little boy with a regular childhood, with a happy family. My security. I do not trust men. I don't trust women, whatever it is. I don't even trust myself. My personal relation. Everybody can see a surface relation. My sexual relations. I'm either overly promiscuous or I'm frigid and I can't. There's 3 people in the bed all the time. Nobody know about it. My pocketbook. I buy my way into relationships. I don't think I'm enough. So then I go to that fourth column, and like I said, I title my part, putting aside the other person involved entirely. Putting aside, where have I been selfish? Well, hard to see. But this is the power of inventory, you guys. When I look at it, I've been selfishly using the abuse card all my life when it's to my advantage. When I want to dog these men, men ain't shit, men ain't. And so I'm a dog them with that under the banner of I deserve to be like, they deserve to be treated this way. When I have something that don't go my way, oh, I'm the poor. How long have I been operating under the banner of when I thought it was to my advantage? I never looked at it like that was selfish. Yeah, I pull it out when it's advantageous for me. My ex-wife, and dishonest, and my ex-wife who suffered that, she was an incest survivor and she had been abused by a stepdad growing up. But she said, and I share it, and I listen to people all the time because I get the opportunity to share, and I get the opportunity to say, to talk to people. And so I listen to you guys real close because sometimes I'm just a reporter. It didn't happen to me, but I get to report it. And she says when she does dishonesty in that resentment inventory, when it comes to that resentment, she says she was dishonest because it started off as molestation, but it ended up as prostitution because she found out she could make something from stepdaddy when he came in, and she would end up looking forward to it, and she would extort him, and she would blackmail, and then she would just get treats and I was like, wow, that's not everybody's experience. Remember, inventory is personal. It's personal. It's yours. Do you want to be right or do you want to be free? And then I look at myself, but I guarantee you'll find it in the fear bucket if you can't find it anywhere else. If you can't find it anywhere else. I'm afraid that I'm damaged goods. I'm afraid everybody know I'm damaged goods. I'm afraid I'll never be worth a love of my own. I'm afraid I'm not capable of giving love. I'm afraid I'm not capable of accepting love. I'm afraid that I'm not deserving of real love. I'm afraid. And so it's riddle. And so then I go to that magic piece. In resentment inventory. I love when Bob talks about doing resentment inventory and talks about looking at it from an entirely different angle, getting out of the prosecution seat and getting over there in the other seat, in the victim seat. And we have a prayer that we do, for our new friends who've never attempted inventory. They call it the sick man's prayer, but really the prayer is for me. I ask God for me, show me the same so that I can show the same pity, patience, and tolerance. I changed that word. That's why I don't read the book like it's scriptural. If I show you pity, I'm looking down on you. And Webster's definition of pity that fits that paragraph for Ralph is compassion. Show me the same compassion, tolerance and understanding that I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. Because when it's somebody that did something to me, I really like to sit in the superior high seat. Yeah, I pity you. No. They, like ourselves, were perhaps spiritually sick. I ain't sick like that. No, but you sick like you sick. He ain't sick like that when it comes to you. Guess what, Mr. Speak? You on somebody's first column, too. And so then we start mastering these resentments. Well, Ralph, how come they keep showing up and 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 they keep showing up? That's the good news. One, that means I keep doing inventory. Two, I'm going to be different looking at this inventory. And three, most importantly, this is a 12-step program, not a 4-step program. And you're going to really see the residue of resentments when you go to that 8 and 9. That's where you'll see the residue. But I'm here to talk about 4 and 5. I hope I get to touch on these others. See, you cheated me out of some time. I'm going to go real fast. I'm not going to stay in resentment too long. That next thing, fear. Oh, it drives my train and it drives my bus, And fear, we think it ought to be classed with stealing. There are so many things that we read in this book that don't come true until they come true. That don't come true until you think you know. Because, hey, check this out. Don't let learning get in the way of seeking. Don't let learning get in the way of seeking. Sometimes I can fall victim to the idea, I've done these 12 steps. You give this magical title to me, and it truly is magical. Sponsor. There's so much that's involved. It is a default setting that works like no other. But you give me that title, and all of a sudden, I start taking it on like I've risen above. And now I'm teacher. I'm in the emergency room. I'm in an ass-out gown too. But all of a sudden, when you call me sponsor, I think I got a stethoscope on, and I think my gown turns into a doctor's smock. You know, what the hell are you doing? But everybody else see me like this, and they know, look at him. You know. But this business, man, this so fear inventory, and it comes. I called my boy Kent, and I was going through some things. I called my sponsor, and me and Bob had talked, and it was eating my lunch. It dovetails in the sex conduct inventory too. This thing was eating my lunch. And sometimes when you get in a deep, deep fear, when you're not in it, when you're not dominated by a resentment currently, you get in the delusion that, man, I know what to do with resentments, man. And, until one just comes and plants itself like this. I ain't been in one of those, but I was in one of those. Like, I get grateful. Okay, I get grateful because it makes me more useful. I got grateful for this fear I was in. And I called Kent. We were on the phone. And this fear had me, you guys, I'm not a fetal position guy, in relation. But Ken heard me, and I was embarrassed, but I wasn't embarrassed. He's my boy. I'm tears on the phone. When they say we think it ought to be classed with stealing, every now and then I think I need a fear like that to come visiting me so the words can come off the page and come true in my life. When it says we think it ought to be classed with stealing, the day before this fear came visiting me, the day before I was in a charmed life. Money's good, ain't paycheck to paycheck, got some stuff in the bank. Why I start with that? Things are good, money, because that's how I am, right? Money's good, not a cloud on the horizon, great relationship. Family is fine. Grandkids cool. My kids cool. In the middle of a charmed life. If you would call me to speak, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm living a great life, blah, 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 blah. Get a call. Get a call that rocks me. Seemingly for me felt like out the blue. Dude, I'm like, and immediately, this is why we say fear, we think it ought to be classed with stealing. Changed everything. Man, my life ain't worth nothing right now. Ain't nothing going right. The sky ain't blue no more. I don't want to hear no more. I don't really want to answer no sponsees calls. I know sponsees, y'all don't know that. But it's times when a sponsor want to look at the phone and be like, I ain't really trying to talk to you. I only want to see one number come up right now. I want it to be this number, and I want it to be this text, and you know what I'm saying? Maybe you ain't never been there, but when fear, and I immediately recognized it. It was crossing. It crossed over. It had an element of resentment to it. It had an element, but it was fear driven. I told Kent, here's the thing about doing what it is we do, you guys. Here's the thing about self-examination. When Katie talks, she's going to talk about self-examination logically tied to prayer and meditation. But I'm talking about just self-examination. It also prepares you for the 10th step. This inventory taking we're doing. It prepares you for the 11th step. This inventory taking we're doing. It preps you. You can't do a 5th step without this inventory taking we're doing. And I'm going to see what I take to 6 and 7 because of this inventory taking we're doing right now. And in this inventory taking, what came to me, and me and Kent were in the conversation, and what came to me was in the conversation, in the devastation that I thought was my life at that time, I saw the hand of God as a result of doing continuous inventory. And I saw it in the crying. I told Kent, this is going to be a hell of a way to describe that sentence, fear we think it ought to be classed with stealing. When we were in the conversation, when this thing becomes part of your lifestyle, when this thing becomes a design for living, when these things that we do are more than just a homework assignment, when the way that I live my life is based on when I get up, I already know there's a gorilla I'm powerless over. My life is that. When you already stand on that as your bedrock, this coming to believe is the rest of what it is we do. It'll happen organically. You don't do it in the second step. It happens organically as the result of doing the rest of this stuff. God will name himself. He'll name himself. This business of giving, giving God, he'll name himself. When you start doing this business of inventory, uncover, discover, and discard, when you digest these chunks, when you really see how much the world dominates you, the world is really, really, and when you really realize, I don't want that to happen. When you go to that biggest, most freeing sentence in the book that Charlie referenced yesterday, our problems, our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. And when you're a grown man, and you don't want to be dominated by troubles, you don't want to be a victim, you don't want to, no, hell no. I'm writing. I'm not that guy. I'm not the lay down guy. I'm not the tractor run over me guy. I'm not so I look. And I look at my sex conduct because I need a roadmap. Most of the time, most of us, and the way I live my life, all the way deep in the recovery, the way I live my life is get with somebody, and I like it when it's heat, and I've been blessed. I've been blessed to have some good part. I was at a retreat a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said, how do you know when you found the one? We were at a men's retreat last week. I said, what make you think you the one? Well, finding the one, you better be trying to make yourself the one. Welcome to Sex Conduct Inventory. Ain't about trying to find the one. Ask yourself 40 questions for your mate. What am I looking for in a mate when I have the qualities in me that somebody that I aspire to be with will find attractive to them? I pinch myself that God has had his way with your boy. Alcoholics Anonymous has had his way with me. When I get in the third step, I think that's pretty much what I'm saying. Have your way. Okay, God, do what you do. I'm not giving directions. I'm not writing a blueprint. Have your way with me. And I've given myself over. I'm the kind of guy, I had a friend that say, I like who like me. And that's a really low standard to come in with. That's a low bar. That's a bar for a scared guy. That's a bar for the person who's so afraid of rejection, I won't ask the question unless I already know the answer's going to be yes. And I've been under reconstruction. I've been under reconstruction now for 36 years. Done a lot of sex conduct inventories. And I have a sane and sound ideal. When we read that inventory, it says a few things in there. You want an ideal, dude. Most folk don't operate with an ideal. They have an ideal for the other person. And you sit down and you go out and you have coffee and you meet and you say, damn, I like Frankie. Ooh, I like Frankie Beverly too. Yeah, I like R&B. Ooh, you like R&B? I like it too. Yeah, I want somebody that's trustworthy. I want somebody with integrity. I want somebody with integrity. I want I want somebody, who's dependable and reliable. Ooh, I want somebody. Ooh, we must be soulmates. We both want the same thing. Yeah, we both want the same thing. Ain't neither one of us got none of them qualities. So I operate on that and I walk away. We soulmates because we both got the same desires. Neither one. And so sex conduct inventory invites me. Ralph, you've had a number of relationships before. You've been in a number of things. Why don't we take a look at them if you want something different? If you want something that's one of the other things, you guys, that we don't know we're doing when we go to meetings. It's a lot of stuff that goes on below the surface that we don't know is taking place when we go to meetings. When we go to meetings, sometimes we get the opportunity, if we watch it, we see some people and we say, "Oh, I want to be like them." I was talking to Les in the room last night and I said, if that had been me standing up there with you, and she, of course, go, "I let you just with your stubborn self. Charlie's stubborn." I said, that's what we do. We gonna man up till that's what we do. And she was like, but you want somebody on, and fellas, if you saw that and you want somebody on your team like that, I need to be somebody. That somebody will want to be on this team. And so when we go to meetings, we see that. We see, man, step into your position. I'm not going to ever stand up here in front of you 36 years sober talking about if you got up 30 minutes before me, you've been sober. No. I'm not discounting what 36 years of experience in Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. I'm not standing up here minimizing what 36 years of membership. No, it ain't rendered me perfect. It ain't made me different. It ain't made me superior to you. It ain't made me none of that. It has not made me any of that. But I step into my position. It has made me an example of what God can do if you give him a little bit of material to work with. It has made me an example. It has made me an example of why we talk about inventory. We don't talk about inventory, we write inventory. And it's made me an example. Oh, that's what it looked like? Yeah, it looked like fall. It still looked like falling down. It still looked like scraping knees. It still looked like bruising shins. It still like face planting. It still looked like all that, but it still looks like standing in front of everybody and talking about, and I'm here. It looked like grown-ass man in life. That's what it looked like. That's why I do inventory. That's why, because I want to be like that. And I go to sex conduct inventory and I look at all the things I've done in the past. I look like being the kind of brother like a lot of men. The way, this is our roadmap. Always keep a spare. You keep a spare. Women too. Don't be laughing. Don't act like you don't know. We people like that. The book calls us, men and women, worldly indeed. We ain't here from choir rehearsal. So I look at that, you guys, and I ask myself those questions. Where have I been selfish? Where have I been inconsiderate? Where have I been dishonest? Did I unjustifiably arouse jealousy? Did I unjustifiably arouse suspicion? Did I unjustifiably arouse bitterness? Who did I hurt? Where was I at fault? And then the key one, those 8 questions are looking at my past conduct. That 9th question is a guide to my future conduct. And it's the key question. And don't just cop out the easy one. I shouldn't have got with her. Okay, let's go to steps before that. I shouldn't have been doing that flirty emailing. I'm not capable of that. If you call me on it because I'm the scared little boy that's the shy guy in school, and I feel like, if I play and you bite, I gotta follow through. Because ain't that what men do? So I look at my belief system. I look at that, and I look at those 8 questions, man. And it's a guide to my future sex conduct. And then I ask God, because I can't do it by myself, mold me. Do something with me. A lot of times, when I fall on my face or when something goes down wrong or when something ain't right, I'll get up here and say, I guess I was in untreated alcohol. No, that don't mean that. In treating my alcoholism, I'm not going to rise above human. Firmly on the 3rd step, I still can retreat. God gave us something, and it's the reason we're here right now. It's the reason we talk about these steps. It's the reason we talk about doing amends. It's the reason we talk about this 11-step practice. It's the reason we do all of that. And God, here's the thing that God gave us, and I hope I circle back, Charlie. I'm going to say something because he's the circling, because they made two things come up at the same time. One of them is this: God don't make hard terms with those who seek him, but we do. We make hard terms with those who seek him. You got to share like this. It's got to be like that. You got to, no, God don't make hard terms with those who seek him. And the reason why this business of living is so problematic, the reason why I got to do inventory, the reason why I got to do this 10 and 11 the way I do, and not everybody's seeking the same way I'm seeking. Remember that, sponsors. I am always mindful of my blind spots in sponsorship. And one of my biggest blind spots is I think my experience is the experience, and I want to impose mine on you. Have your own walk. Have your own path. We don't impose. That's why you don't see any descriptions of God in our. You find yours, and you don't describe. If you try to define it, my friend Marilyn Slater, she shares something, and she says it's Buddhist, and the Buddhists say, if you see the Buddhist in the road, kill him. What? How is that a spiritual statement? Killing. If you meet the Buddhist in the road, if you meet the Buddha, not the Buddhist, okay. If you meet the Buddha, see, I was way out of line. If you meet, don't kill the Buddhist. Don't kill the Buddhist. Don't kill the Buddhist. I wish I could take that off. Don't kill the Buddhist. That's what I get for quoting Marilyn. If you see the Buddha in the road, kill it. What the hell does that mean? If you meet your concept if you think you got this fully defined conception of God, let it go. Too limited, too narrow. The minute I think I got it, don't let learning get in the way of seeking, right? And so this business, but this thing, God gave us something, you guys. And then Lee, I don't know how much time I got, Lee, because God gave us something that's unique to us as a species, humans, people. He gave us free will. It's what separates us from the animals. Birds, they just fly south. They don't know why. It's that time of year. They ain't got calendars or nothing, but something in their thing is go south. Bears, they say, okay, it's time to go in the cave. You see dogs in the middle of the street doing what they do because that's what they do when they meet, but humans, we have free will. It's what defines us. It's what makes us. And the only thing we can do with free will, we can choose whether or not to do God's will, or we can use free will to do self-will. And God, being God, is cool with that because that's how he made us. I heard a speaker share not too long ago, God made us in his image. But we turned around and returned the favor. We make him in our image. And that is so limiting, that idea of this power. And so because God is not going to fetter us and make us robots and the rest, we're going to always have this challenge of free will. We're going to always have this challenge of, me wanting to get here. We're going to always have it. So don't trip off that. I'm 16. So the thing about doing this inventory, and I'm gonna go because I'm over here. Let me hit fifth step though, real fast, because I got a little time, and I want to talk about that. You know what? There are some unintended consequences of all of our steps. And the unintended consequence of doing a fourth and a fifth step. The moment I got up off my knees, I felt like I was a member in Alcoholics Anonymous. We have a broad, thorough tradition that says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's not the only requirement for recovery, though. And when I did a fourth and fifth step, I felt like for real I was in recovery. I played with myself a few times before I got so... Okay, that didn't sound right, and somebody too. Everybody else had the sense enough to just say, okay, Ralph, we're going to go on. But one person just had to titter, while I got the mic and I'm doing resentment inventory. You know better than that. Anyway. So I never, I always thought, do I have the capacity to really be honest? I BS myself so much, I didn't know when I got on my knees in the third step, God don't need me on my knees. I need me on my knees. When I did a fourth and fifth step, that is when I really believe people in here do fourth and fifth steps. I believed you guys, but I really believed it when I did it. Because I know me. I'm a perpetrator. I get up in meetings and share about steps that I ain't took. I was about 6 or 7 months sober at an 11-step meeting. That was the topic. And I shared on the 11th step, the 11th step is one of the steps that proves you don't have to take the steps in order. I've been praying since I got sober, I've been praying, forget the meditation part. We just, because I don't have to know nothing about a subject to talk about it. So I'm up here just, and old timers, they let me. Don't you love that about Alcoholics Anonymous? Because they know what's most important is he's on fire. What's most important is he's here. What's most important is he trying. We see that. We know when you perpetrating. We know when you but we know when you trying. And we don't mind that. Alcoholics Anonymous got a lot of room. We got a lot of room for that kind of, what we call hypocrisy. We see that all the time. And they just let me rattle on, But when I did a fourth and fifth step, I felt like for real. I didn't know you guys were priming me for a fifth step by going to meetings. People sometimes trip off of what people call drunken laws, what people call inappropriate sharing, what people call, I'm in my home group, 9604 South Figueroa, big old 6'6" brother, Dennis L. And Dennis from the penitentiary, and he a hard guy, and Dennis one night was sharing, I'm in my first year, and Dennis was sharing, he said, yeah, I could have, anybody up in here, when I came out the way, I could have your girl and your man. And I said, he didn't say that right here in front of And those kinds of transparent shares, I think, prepped me for a fifth step. I'd already got accustomed to being transparent. And more importantly, for a guy like me, it seemed like you guys liked me better when I exposed my vulnerabilities. Seemed like you liked me better when I told you when I was scared. Seemed like you liked me better when I told on myself for doing something stupid. And that worked for me. That's why I understand 6 and 7 when it says, God, take away every defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness. Some of them are really useful for a moment. And that idea of being accepted, getting approval, was big for me. And so when I sat in front of my sponsor, and the first guy I did a fifth step with was not my sponsor. He was a guy that was facilitating this workshop I was in. He was a gay dude from Venice, California, and he lived, I'll be forever grateful to him. And I did that fifth step, you guys. And it has been quite the journey since then. Coming out of that fifth step, I was able to take some stuff from that fifth step and take it into the preceding steps, to take it into the steps that Bob is going to talk about, 6 and 7. I was able to take what I learned in that fifth step and what the guy was able to point out to me, and subsequently what sponsors have pointed out to me. And I've taken them into the steps Larry's going to talk about, 8 and 9. And as a result of doing that fourth and that fifth step, I've been able to do them on the spot when Katie talks about them in 10 and 11. 4 and 5, permeate the rest of what it is that we do. Subsequently, I've done fifth steps with sponsees. I've done fifth steps with many with my sponsor, and I've had 2 sponsors in my recovery lifetime. I've done them with sponsees. I've done them with men. I've done them with women. I've done them with guys that are mentors of mine outside of my sponsorship. I like the experience, and I like the look in you guys. You know, I like the looking. And more than I like the look, it's changed me and it's transformed me. I encourage you, if you have not yet done a 4th and a 5th step, how long does it take to do a 4th step? Well, some people say, 5 years and 2 weeks, 3 years and 2 weeks, 1 year and 2 weeks. 2 weeks to do it, and however long it take you to do it otherwise, I am extremely grateful to be here this weekend, and I really, 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 really want to thank you guys for the Southern hospitality, and more than anything else, I know I mentioned him a lot since I've been up here. But you did something for me last night, my brother. You did something for me last night. And I know it doesn't matter how long we've been sober. That fear inventory we talk about, Katie, Charlie. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic.